Thank you for staying with us. It's Atlantic Blowout on Atlantic Television Network. I have with me on Atlantic Blowout this morning, Fineface Dumnamene. Good morning, Mr. Fineface.
Good morning, Choma.
It's a pleasure having you on Blowout.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right. Governor Charles Soludo of Anambra State has expressed sadness over the alleged violation of the state's burial law at the funeral of a former governor of the state, Chukwuemeka Ezife. Mr. Ezife, who served as the governor of the state between January 1992 and November 1993, died at the Federal Medical Center, Abuja, in December 2023. The former governor's burial was held on Saturday at his residence in Ibuku community, Agwata local government area of the state. Governor Soludo attended the event where he complained about the violation of the state's burial. The law is intended to discourage excessive spending during burial and funeral ceremonies, given that communities in Anambra State have a history of organizing flamboyant burial and funeral ceremonies. Mr. Fineface, what do you make of, first of all, the burial law? I don't know if you're familiar with Anambra State burial law. What do you make of it, and what do you think of the governor's reaction during the burial ceremony proper?
Yeah, basically, I'm not familiar with the burial law, but knowing fully well that what the governor said here is that the law is aimed at, ensuring that people don't overspend during the burial of their loved ones. Then it's just like summary of what the burial law is about. Trying to set standards that should be followed, the limitation to how much should be spent and what have you. But then here, this is a former governor, Ezife, that died. And there is what we normally do, or what people normally do in the south, southeast, and other parts of Nigeria, except those who are Muslims. They always say they want to give the person what they call, quote and unquote, a befitting burial. So in the light of trying to talk about giving a people buried, and again, in this particular case, this is a former governor. And as a former governor, in the general normal Nigerian sense, you have people talking about giving the governor, the former governor, the late former governor, a state burial. And that state burial arrangement will make it to be very expensive and make them to put in place very serious, highest spending plans that they put out there. So what you see is not something that, to an extent, the governor, the law will really be able to control. But to a very large extent, they ought to have obeyed what the governor and what the law says to ensuring that they limit their spending for the burial. But Anambra, I know Anambra for one thing. In fact, the very first day I found myself in Onitsha, Oka, I asked myself, is it Nigeria? Because when you see the kind of structures you see and how people are going, they are top businessmen. And as a former governor of the state and an elder, have laws like this to work in our states, then we need to really look into the issue of not even letting the person that has passed on to stay more than a week, so that they don't give people room to even overplan and prepare to spend so much money. Like, you look at what they did in the Muslim world. If you just pass on, you are just put to rest, and no time to put a lot of things together. But then,
all right, let's briefly look at Anambra State burial law. Right, it says the law has specific provisions that seek to cut burial costs in Anambra State. For instance, Section 5, Subsection 1 of the law restrains the erection of billboards, banners, or posters, while Section 6, Subsection 1 disallows the deposit of corpses in a mortuary beyond 2 months after death. Then, if others say, similarly, Section 11 restrains any second funeral. Such activities must be, and all of that depends on the number that they will put for you. So these are the things. So in Anambra, in the southeast, in Igbo, burial ceremonies are used to display wealth, ostentatious wealth. So it's more like a kind of, and that's the time that, people in Anambra State, the friends of the deceased, use it to show, one, the level of respect or honor they have for their friend who lost a loved one. So you see, in cases like that, this person will bring a cow, this other person, there was a particular burial, I think, that may have led to this law, and that has to do with Obi Kubana. When Obi Kubana buried the mom. You remember how many days that burial lasted? The friends that were coming, it was a competition of cows. It was a competition of cows and competition of money. In fact, the whole thing turned to
a carnival.
A carnival, so to speak. And after that, this law was enacted. And again, when you look at it on the other hand, even though the restrictions might appear too stringent for Anambrarians, you know, when you look at it again, it shields and protects the people.
Mom's burial. Now, it was a display of wealth, but to a very large extent, it boosted the local economy of Anambra State because people came from far and near. Cattle, cow was everywhere, money, everything was going on. But the point here is that you can only caution, but I don't think you need to back it up with this law with so many restrictions, that people should conduct burials according to their strengths. And then you may want to prohibit selling of property, selling of land, selling of things to conduct burial. Conduct your burial. Even why this law wasn't in place in Anambra State, I can't restricting them on what they needed to do. So to a very large extent, a lot of people fed from that process, and a lot of people are happy. They made money and other things that they did from the process. So allow people to conduct burials, bury their young loved ones the way they want to do it, and not by backing it up with certain stringent law that people will not be able to obey.
All right. The Yoruba self-determination movement, led by Banji Akintoye and Sunday Adeyemo, popularly known as Sunday Igboho, has written an open letter to President Bola Tinubu seeking a peaceful breakaway of the Yoruba people from Nigeria. In the letter signed by Mr. Akintoye, Mr. Adeyemo, and Ola Ademola, the trio urged President to establish a negotiation team with a group within the next 2 months and have a dialogue with them. This is coming days after suspected Yoruba Nation agitators attempted an invasion of the Oyo State Government Secretariat. Recall that both Igboho and Mr. Akintoye had distanced themselves from the action of the agitators. Now, what do you have to say to this development right now in Yoruba land?
Basically, the development of what happened at the your state secretariat was a treasonable offense, and I believe some of them were arrested and some of them are being tried. But then this is a way to go, writing to Mr. President to open discussion with the group. This is the way to go. But the point is that when Mr. President honors such call for him to open discussion with the Yoruba land, he may not, and he won't honor it. And I don't know whether in their letter they said what they are going to do. If after 2 months Mr. President did not say anything, what is it that they think they want to do? If the Yoruba nation wants to seek for this kind of, make this kind of request on the presidency, they should do it when it is not a Yoruba man that is the president of Nigeria. So this is the time for the South-Southerners to write to Mr. President and ask for him to give them chance to discuss this issue. This is the time for the Southeasterners to write. Just sit and watch, because theirs may not really be approved because Mr. President is there. But then if people of the Southeast have put the application there to say, Mr. President, talk perspective on one area where Mr. President comes from, it's really going to be difficult for Mr. President to listen to this. To an extent, I believe that some people are already reaching out to say, you want to spoil my international law that Nigeria ratified. They have right to self-determination. And it has to be explored from that perspective to ensuring
homeland. The letter read in parts. The group noted that in the Middle Belt, horrendous bloodletting was going on with many villages forced to internally displaced people's camps, while many of the villages were seized by Fulani and renamed as somewhat better, but the Fulani attacks, killings and kidnappings have been unrelenting and are coming daily, leading to horrific instability and forcing most farmers to abandon farming.
This is not a better ground to talk about secession. This is not a better ground.
It's not
a solid ground to talk about secession from Nigeria. All they need to tell Mr. President in that letter is to improve security within their area. And I think that as part of improving security to fight against the Fulani herdsmen and their invasion of various land across Nigeria, various regional governments, blocks, came together and put in place certain security architecture. In the Yoruba land where he's talking about now, we have the Amotekun that was put together. The original purpose and security, a plan of Amotekun was to protect Yoruba land from the invasion of the Fulani herdsmen. So I think what they need to do is to strengthen the regional security network, the Amotekun in the southwest, to ensure that their land is protected. Then they should support the men are involved in. Then by so doing, the issue would have been addressed. Then I don't think
but then
that caused opposition.
You would recall that the president addressed the issue of nomadic farming when concerns and agitations increased on the level of on the herdsmen farmers conflict, right? So now the president now said that all the states across the federation should release lands for herders. And certain states and even part of the Yoruba youth, a faction of the Yoruba youth, came out to say that they will resist it. They are not going to allow it. Now, the question is, granting herders lands across all the country. Now, do not forget this Igboho, Sunday Igboho and his team have concerns around the herders, you know, having an intention to overtake practically every land and claim as theirs, you know. Now, having that particular concern, and then you look at it, you do a comparative analysis between this concern, which to them is valid, and then the president's instruction that all 36 states will have to release land for herders. You would wonder, do you see this happening? Is it implementable? Now, do not forget that a lot of people, not just in the southwest, even in the southeast, as the case may be, have also had
to my private business. Then the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the country, will direct another person to give land to a businessman free of charge to do his business. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. If the cattle rearers want to go into business of cattle rearing, they need to acquire their lands and then use their land to do their business. Because after the lands are released to the cattle rearers and they graze the land, the cattle grow to maturity, they don't give it free to members of the public. And apart from the little token they pay at the abattoir where they slaughter the cattle, I don't think they're really paying tax to the rest of Nigerians where the money is shared to other Nigerians, like it is being gotten from oil, from the Niger Delta. So why will Mr. President sit down somewhere and then give instruction to states to release land to herders? I think what needs to be done here is, that is a presidential statement. It's not a law, so it's not an act of parliament that states are bound to obey. So what needs to happen in this at this stage is that if the presidency is really committed to solving the issue of herders farmers, they should make it clear to them in the first instance that this is your private business. If you want to do the business of cattle rearing, you look for where to stay and do your business, and you be in harmony with your landlords and, you know, the landowners to do your business. I cannot go into farming, you go into cattle rearing, I grow my crops, hoping that in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 months, I'm going to harvest, use it to feed my family. And you bring your own cattle to eat up my crops. And then I cry and nobody listens to me. And when your cattle eat my crop and grow to maturity, you say and put the money into your pocket. That doesn't happen and that shouldn't be obtained. So if herders are becoming an issue to Nigeria, the presidency, they know what to do. The president knows, security operatives know what to do. Look at how policemen are being killed, how they're harassing people, raping people everywhere. A lot of stories about what they are, how they're terrorizing the country is there. And you cannot deny the fact that wherever they enter is like final. You cannot take back that area again. And they claim it to be their own. In Rivers State, where I come from, I know what happened at Transamadi Slaughter, where they occupy just because they are using it as abattoir where they bring their cattle to slaughter every day. I know what former Governor Nyesom Wike suffered in their hands while he was chairman of Obiakpo Council area. So when he became governor, it became the opportunity for him to rescue part of his land. And that's why you saw what happened at Transamadi Slaughter. And the head of Transamadi Slaughter in Port Harcourt, while it was operating, the person that is in charge is richer than the British Prime Minister. They kill cattle every day and they pay for every cattle killed there every day. The money doesn't go to the pocket.
After restructuring, the Fulani will still be Nigerians like us and will still have full citizens' rights to come in large numbers and with weapons and intent to kill and destroy and seize land. So now, even with the restructuring, it appears that their issue, it's not exactly restructuring, but their issue is the herders. You know, I feel calling them Fulani might be wrong because that is just blacklisting an entire ethnic group. Probably call them the herders because it's not every Fulani man that is a herdsman.
Exactly. But then in this case, he's starting the implementation of that law. And then we are able to safeguard and protect our land and then seek the help of federal and state police officers. Don't also be surprised that the reason why some persons are kicking against state police is because they may use it to fight headers in their state. And those who are benefiting from what is currently going on don't want that to happen. A lot of things are in the mix. So the point here remains that we need to strengthen security within our territories. Right. So, but the fact that to keep Fulani headers and herdsmen away is to divide Nigeria is not a valid point to me.
All right. We'll go on a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with the story. Do not go away.
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-the-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
Every day our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what's the blood.
I have fought a very firmly.
Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honourable
you human trafficker.
Honourable
You're a human
They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
of investigations. In his statement, Shettima said that going by unfolding developments, Bello no longer has anything to do with the EFCC. He said the former governor only needs with the court process. Now, Mr. Fineface, what do you think of this statement by these groups urging EFCC to respect the rule of law?
Well, my very response would be to dismiss the statement with the wave of an hand. It doesn't hold water. I don't know how people take things. The EFCC is not operating because it wants to operate. The EFCC is established by an act of parliament. They have their functions and responsibilities. They need to be given the free hand and level playing ground to operate. I was expecting this statement to say that Mr. Yahaya Bello should present himself to the EFCC. I don't understand how people see things. You are accused to have allegedly mismanaged some amount of money, and they have some questions to ask you. If I were to be in the show, I would submit myself to the EFCC. That is the best wanted by the Nigerian army for the killing of the 17 soldiers. It's working free now. If you have nothing to hide, former Governor Yahaya Bello, Your Excellency, present yourself to the EFCC. What is there? I think Fayoshe did the same thing, presented himself to the EFCC. I don't know what they mean by rule of law, going to court. You are alleged to, we know everything and how they up. Go there and tell them what you did and what you didn't do. There is no fundamental, issue about this. Kogi State doesn't have that. You are done from office, your immunity is gone. Present yourself to answer some questions. It's very simple. It's very, very simple. Even, I also expect the Code of Conduct Bureau to be going after him as well. Every other former governor. They declare asset when they came to office. As they leave office, you have to have them declare their asset again. And definitely there could be 1 or 2 questions they need to answer as a result of that. So I don't see any reason why youth group, sponsored youth group will come forward and say, the respect rule or respect what. Look, Yahaya Bello should even be someone that will respect the laws of Nigeria and go in there. There is one particular advert that used to run on TV about him saying that I have a lot in mind. I know too much. This is the time. I believe that while he was in office, he had a lot in his mind and he knew too much. This is the time for him to come and tell the EFCC what he knows about the issue they are talking about. So, Mr. Former Governor, present yourself. It's not a rocket science. Go there, answer some questions. And if your hands are clean, you will come out. Remember, you have to go to equity with clean hands. Nothing is fundamentally difficult with you presenting yourself to the EFCC.
You made a point when you talked about even the Federal Character Commission going after...
Yeah, Code of Conduct Bureau.
And Code of Conduct Bureau, yes. And you also mentioned, you said that prior to assuming around this asset declaration, do you think lack of implementation of what they are supposed to do could be one of the issues where could be leading or could be a catalyst to amassing wealth by public office holders, and at the end of the day nothing is done about it? Because assets were declared in the first place. The governors and other public office holders that declare assets, can we find these declarations?
It's not in public domain, and I think...
So it will be difficult for the public to call out public office holders that are amassing wealth from the monies meant for the public.
And that is supposed to be the role of the Code of Conduct Bureau. They are supposed to be as strong as the ICPC and the EFCC to ensure that public office holders declare their asset as they were going in to become governors or any other office they are holding. When they are done, they also declare their assets so that they look at the difference between why you came to office and why you are leaving office. There is nothing that prevents you from getting more assets than what you had when you get into office. But where the issue will lie is if the assets you have acquired while in office is more than what you are earning as salary, then people begin to raise questions. So that is what needs to be done, so that while the EFCC is going after any previous public office holder for maybe embezzlement of funds, the Code of Conduct Bureau is supposed to be going after them to say that this asset we saw that you have acquired is beyond what your salary, your emolument and benefits in office were. How did you get them? It becomes issue that we need to follow up. And members of the public may not have direct access to this, but with the Freedom of Information Act 2021, I believe that Nigerians can also make demands and get copies of their asset. But I have not even heard of when any public office holder leaves office that they go back and declare their assets again and compare, for them to really be able to compare. If that is done, sometimes it's done in the public domain, and it needs to come to the public domain because they were in office serving the people, and the people need to know what they have gotten after they left office that they were given the mandate to serve. So all of this put together is something that we need to really be able to strengthen if we want to really fight against corruption in this country.
Do you even see the possibility of such implementation?
That is the issue.
Will the people in power, who are also public office holders, would they implement a law that will directly affect them?
Definitely, they are not in the position to implement the law. We have a public code of conduct bureau that is in charge of doing that.
Are they independent?
They are supposed to be independent.
How
because
are they funded?
They are funded by the federal government, just like the EFCC and the ICPC. It's a federal government institution.
If they are funded by the federal government,
so
doesn't that answer
who should fund them? It's like the EFCC is working, they are funded by the federal government. ICPC, they're funded by the federal government. The police, the DSS.
How many times, Mr. Fineface, have you seen EFCC going after somebody, probably a political figure, and after a while the person defects and suddenly the case is dead?
Those are the issues of corruption.
So do you see implementation?
It's being done, but not holistic and not the way we want it to be. And that is why I talk about strengthening the institutions. If, for instance, I don't know how the EFCC is funded by the federal government now, either through the executive or they basically have their own funding coming straight through the Appropriation Act that is passed every year. But the point here is that if we have the Code of Conduct Bureau that is working, and you have these particular people, you know, they are in office, they need to really be able to check their document while they came to office, check it when they are leaving office, so that we can have a system that will be able to address the issue of corruption within the system. But a situation whereby they declare assets while they were in office, when they left office, they didn't declare, and you keep thinking that everything was the same. It's not the way it's supposed to go. So I really believe strongly that the Code of Conduct Bureau has a lot to do, the same way the EFCC is attempting.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring
History,
We are one people, all of us.
leaders, politics,
Nobody's ambition is what the blood.
I have fought a very family.
natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
Honorable on them. They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
From the labyrinth, on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN. From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Every day our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics,
Nobody's ambition is what the blood.
I have fought a very family.
natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
Thank you for staying with us. It's still Atlantic Blowout on Atlantic Television Network. Joining us on the show this morning is Goodluck Timothy, a socio-political analyst and human rights activist. Good morning, Mr. Goodluck.
Good morning.
And thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
And on to the story. The National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, said the federal government has resumed prosecution of Boko Haram suspects across Nigeria. The National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, disclosed this at a two-day high-level Africa Counter-Terrorism Summit in Abuja on Monday. According to him, Nigeria is also gathering intelligence on the activities of Boko Haram and the Islamic State, West Africa Province, ISWAP, to tackle the groups headlong. Mr. Fineface, do you see this becoming a reality in Nigeria? Federal government to start prosecution of Boko Haram members or suspects? Do you see this happening?
It's something they claim to have been doing over the years. It's something the army had also been doing, the police have also been doing. And it's something that some officer had also been complaining about, that after they are arrested, they are prosecuted, they are remanded, and before you know, they are freed and things like that. So I think there is no serious sincerity on the part of government to prosecute the Boko Haram suspects, like it is said. But then, now the National Security Advisor is saying that this is going to resume. It's something they are going to commence now again. So let's see if they will do anything, serious this time. Otherwise, so far, we've seen a situation whereby a lot of them are pardoned. They get into detention facilities, correctional center is broken, they escape. We've also had cases of, prisoners swap for, kidnapped victim and things like that. A lot of these things have just been there. The leniency on the part of prosecuting the Boko Haram suspect have really not been something that we can now say that they are going to take anything seriously anymore. But if they said they want to start, they hold the yam, they hold the knife. So they are those who will decide on what to do to really be able to address the issue. But I think that what needs to be done is for us to fight the issue of insurgency, insecurity head on, so that it will serve as deterrent to others who may want to come into the fold when they see that their colleagues who have been there before or those who have been there before are really being dealt with by the laws of the land. But what we currently have is not something that we expect. But now this is the NSA saying something is going to be done this time. So let's give him the benefit of that and see what happens within the next 1 year in terms of really being able to prosecute the Boko Haram suspect across the country.
All right. What do you make of these developments, Mr. Goodluck?
When I heard it, I laughed, because we have been saying the
forward operational base, Ajiri. Now, the question is, even with the integration, you would wonder, what were the things, what processes did the federal government take to integrate these people? Is it even right to integrate terrorists when we say repentant terrorists? In Nigeria, Nigeria is good at bringing out certain words to cushion the effect of certain actions. When we say repentant terrorists, how did they arrive at the conclusion that they are genuinely repentant?
Yeah, I think that is on the part of government to really be able to follow the procedures, because what is happening in Nigeria in relation to how the Boko Haram Boko Haram insurgents are operating, and ISWAP, all of them, is not something that is fundamentally new to warfare across the world. So there are procedures that are laid down for those who are either captured, those who are either claim to have repented, those who have surrendered. There are procedures and steps they need to pass through before you can talk about integrating them into the society. One of the key things you need to do, if you have seen a sign of repentance on their part, is that you try to de-radicalize them. There are processes of training, processes of reorientating them, processes they need to pass through. And when you've seen that genuine repentance in them, then you can free them into the society in line with other procedures that are already established by United Nations, who are familiar and have been carrying out some of these things across the world over the years. Then you can release them into society with an eye on them and what they do, so that you do not have to get those who have not been fully repented into the system. Because when you fail to really de-radicalize them and psychologically ensure that they are good to be in the society, and you allow them to be in. The moment they get in there, they will still continue to carry on that activity they were carried on before they were arrested, and then you come to radicalize them. So it remains that the security operatives will really be able to determine that these people have chosen to live the path of good into the society before you allow them in. Because when you fail to do so, their actions, behaviors they may decide not to go back to Boko Haram. They may decide to become criminals on the streets, robbery incidences, kidnapping. They can be involved in that, or also get involved in pirate activities. A lot of things they can get in because it's already in their DNA to behave that way. So a lot needs to be done to really be able to address the issue of bringing them into the society. But when you fail to do so, they will continue to manifest that behavior that will make you see that this person is not really supposed to be here. You can, when you try to transform someone that has spent many years in a particular area, it's not something you do within few months. It has to also take about years before you can do that. Remember a particular newspaper in Nigeria, I think Punch, continue to refer to former President Muhammadu Buhari as Major General, because as a man who have served and retired as a Major General, now serving as a civilian president of Nigeria, he was manifesting some traits of military in his actions. And for that reason, they said, no, this man has not really been refined to the extent that we can say he's a real civilian president. For that reason, they keep using his title or what he was to refer to him, because there are certain actions that he was still taking at the time that made people to say that, this is a military man in a civilian dress sitting as the president. So this is how this relates to what we are talking about in terms of really being able to re-radicalize repentant, so to say, Boko Haram members into the society. But I think that if we really want to fight insecurity head on, like everybody have also said, if you arrest someone accused of that, the person should be taken to court. It is the court that will determine whether or not this person was involved or not. Anybody that is found wanting by the court should go in and then serve prison term. When the person comes out, remember the name of our prison facility now is Correctional Center. During the period of incarceration, the person will have himself, corrected before he can fit into the society again.
Are you saying the Nigerian correctional centers have the apparatus to actually rehabilitate offenders?
For now, I think it's by name we have, and it will take a while for us to really put in place measures that we should use to get that done. Because if we can put together measures, today we are talking about diversifying the economy. Those who are at the correctional center, there are those who are not hardened criminals. There are those who are not, that bad. The offense that brought them there are not bad. You can use them to go into agriculture. In the places they learn skills, in the centers, there should be facilities for them to train with, and they can contribute to the GDP and the development of the country, other than just keeping them there to read Bible or read the Quran and then praise God and do other things, and then at the end of their prison time they come out. They can be reformed through that system. Right. So the Nigerian Correctional Center should put in place measures to be able to reform those who found themselves in the facility.
All right. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, and former President Goodluck Jonathan have disagreed over the establishment of state police in the country. There have been renewed calls for the establishment of state police following an increase in kidnappings, banditry, and violent attacks across the country. Speaking during a national dialogue on state police organized by the House of Representatives in Abuja with the theme, Pathways to Peace, Reimagining Policing in Nigeria. Egbetokun, represented by Ben Okolo, an Assistant Inspector General of Police, said Nigeria is not ready for decentralized police force. Ex-President Jonathan, on the other hand, stated that with the spate of kidnappings, the issue of state police is non-negotiable. So, Mr. Goodluck, there are two arguments on the table. The IGP is saying Nigeria is not ready for state police, and President Goodluck Jonathan, the former President Goodluck Jonathan, is saying it is non-negotiable. Now, Mr. Goodluck, what do you think about state policing?
Okay, I think if you look at state policing, to me, it is very, very important and paramount, because when the effect of neighborhood watch was affected in Rivers State, then I think under Rotimi Amechi, somehow it was a little bit effective, but not much. You see, I live in Abloma houses, and I come to understand when the neighborhood watch was effective, you understand that there was this communication going around. They have one cell phone, though I was not privileged to be one of the neighborhood watch member, but I had people close to me that was the neighborhood watch member. Then they have phones, and I don't know how they did it. It was free credit. So if any incident, if they have incident occurring in the environment, immediately they will call before you know, that person will be apprehended. So I don't know why they are shying away from this. State policing should be one of the things we should look at, which is very, very important, because these persons know the terrain, they know the environment, they know the corners where these people work. Okay, do you know that I've been hearing in the news now that Awuda West, where this Two-Face, this late what's his name again? Tubaba came from. How did they get him arrested? It was the security. If you listen to the comment of what they are asking for now, Governor, please give us our ransom. Give us the bounty that was placed. Yes, the bounty that was placed on the Tubaba. It's 100 million. They are shouting seriously for that money to be released to them because they aid the police River State Command to lead to his killing. So you see, it will help us a lot if they bring in state policing, because these persons will know their terrain and the crime rate will reduce. Because once it is in place, like I am part of them, or I have a brother is part of them, we can be ready to give information. But the reason why most times this fragile system of policing is not working is that when you give information to another man that is not in your terrain, if the person gets to know who you are, you may be set up at the end of the day. That's why even when you call for, let's say you are calling for information about somebody, some people are skeptical to come out and say, I know this, I know that, because they are afraid of, who am I telling this thing to? Is the person a friend? Is the person will the person not review me? Because they are with arms. They may start to tell you and push you off the way, because the person you're reporting may be their brother. But the interest is this: this state is our state. I'm using River State as a point now. This is our state. I need the growth of this state. I want this state to move forward. I want this state to be better. So if I know that I have somebody that is close to me that is doing, like now, harvesting of organ is is on the rise, kidnapping. In fact, as I was coming now, as I was not driving this morning, I was coming to this studio. I was very careful with my phones. The bus I want to enter, transportation I was very careful, because I don't know which one I'm entering. So, but if you have the state policing around you, you understand that it will reduce the crime. It will reduce the crime. Right. I think my take and my support is the state policing. Yes, so with my brother. Good luck, Jonathan.
All right. Mr. Fineface, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I don't expect to hear less from the IGP.
Okay.
Because, he's trying to defend his job. One thing you need to think about is what is Nigeria police without the involvement of the states? Our former governor, His Excellency Eze-Onye Sanwo-Ike, once said that he's a chief logistics officer and not chief security officer of the state. If you watch well, you can't really tell the last time that you have the federal government releasing hundreds or tens of vehicles to state police. You won't see it. It is the state governors that do those things for the police. A lot of police headquarters across the country, divisional police stations are built by state governors and given to the police. Many vehicles they use are bought, motorcycles are bought. All the logistics they have is provided by the state governors. So do you expect IGP himself to support state police when all this thing will be taken to them and be used to taking care of the state police? He wouldn't want that to happen. But then I even wonder how our forebearers decided to arrive at a system whereby we have a central police when you have 3 tiers of government. Every tier of government should have their police. The current police force we have should be the concern of the federal government of Nigeria. Then we should have state police. We should even have local government police. And at the community level, we should have community police in there, so that we are able to monitor and understand what happens in our system. The current police architecture that we have in Nigeria is the reason for the insecurity that we have. In the first instance, the security issues across the country has overwhelmed Nigerian police. They can't manage it anymore. Secondly, those who are in the various states are posted from other states of the federation. You cannot understand the nitty-gritty of what happens in the grassroots. But if we have state police, local government police, the federal police will be there. The laws will be amended. And then we define the rules of the local government police, the state police, the local, even community vigilantes or neighborhood watch put together. Then when a crime is committed and somebody is apprehended, you look at the law. What does the law say about it? You move the person to the appropriate authority that should handle and prosecute that person. That is the only way. Look, if you are in a particular community and crime is committed, those community people quickly are able to quickly identify that. But today, we have places in Nigeria where you have over 5,000 people living without even one police officer or even one police station. It's not there. Many, even in Rivers State, we have it. For example, I'm from Kana local government area. I'm from Ward 7. In the entire Ward 7, there is no one police station of 8 villages. No one functional police station. How do you do that? But if you have neighborhood watch, community police, all those areas, you will have them. When a new face walks into the community, you are able to know this is a new face. You are able to find out what the person's mission and what have you. That is what needs to be done. So I do not expect the IGP to try to, support the establishments of state police. All he wants is to put the comment out there. If Mr. President wants to do, they want to do it, is none of his concern. But it shouldn't be on record that he supported a system that will weaken the federal police from what they are currently enjoying, which is not even sufficient for them.
We are out of time, but I would have really loved to dwell in this argument, because now the IGP also made salient points as to why he said the federal Nigeria is not yet right.
They don't hold water.
Now, in the first place, he talked about politicians making use of state police. I mean, you see what happens during elections, even with the federal police and the military. So he is now saying if state police is established, they will be weaponized, during politics. That's on one hand. And then on the other hand, he talked about how they do not even have equipment to function. But you have made the right point where you said it falls into the ambit of the federal government. Now, the question I want to bring in now has to do with the remuneration of the state police. You agree with me that there are states in Nigeria that have not even implemented the wage award.
Yeah.
There are states in Nigeria, not only have they not implemented the wage award, they are still owing backlogs of salaries. So when you now add the state police structure, is the remuneration not going to come from the pocket of the states?
The approval for the creation of state police is in line with restructuring of Nigeria. The restructuring, we also restructure existing states in such a way that they can even generate more internally generated revenue to drive their issues. So the issue of remuneration will not be an issue. The states are going to set up the state police according to their strengths. You are not expected to maybe run 10,000, 20,000 when you don't have the capacity to run that. Now, look, it is when you have burden that you sit up. Like the harsh economic situation in the country today, every head of family is sitting up in what you do. You do not only cut down on your lifestyle, just like we expect the governors to cut down on their excessive.
You expect, or
they
is
should.
That what they are doing? No,
when the load comes,
you're sounding idealistic.
Look, I know.
You expect. What have you seen with
when the load comes, you have to sit up.
How many have?
You have to sit up when the load comes.
How many governors are sitting up in Nigeria?
Well, until you carry out a research, you may not really be able to.
Can you say that these of the 36 state governors receiving increased FAC allocation, can you say that I know of 10 that are actually using that FAC allocation for the betterment of the state?
A lot of them are doing it.
Out of 36.
At least
a lot of them are doing. Anambra, I can also point out Anambra trying to do something. Rivers is also trying, but not sufficient. All of them not sufficient.
Rivers, if not for the crisis, the man would have done something.
That one is very clear. So the point here is that
the police should be approved.